So, welcome to the Patreon episode, the first one for October, because you'll be getting a second one in October as well to compensate for the lack of getting one in September.
Yeah, sorry
Right? Yeah.
guys.
Sorry.
Sorry, been too
We've just been really busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
just
it's
checking
been
myself
tricky.
out in the camera. Invisalign's going great.
Nigel, before we started, he was telling me about his Invisalign,
Yeah.
and I was so bored. No, but what is it? You have one tooth that's not really
Not tracking.
not tracking.
But it's one tooth, it's on the bottom. Nobody cares.
Nobody
Yeah, the
cares.
top. This is all about the top, baby. I'm just showing my teeth. I'm just glaring my teeth at the camera now.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yes. Patreon
Well,
bonus. This was gonna be for supposed to be for September, but we are busy, so we didn't get to do it. And we're gonna talk about the thing that made us so busy:
Yeah.
the
true.
sketch show. Sketch show.
A sketch show. We're doing a sketch show. Well, yes, we're doing a sketch show with a channel that we won't mention yet because it's not been announced. But how do you feel it's been going, Nigel? These are sketches based on stuff that we've come up on with on the podcast.
Yeah, we got
Yeah, Nigel.
vegan slave owner got cut early days.
Oh, you
that's normal.
don't say.
Yeah, but I think it really made me realize why the reputation on mainstream comedy, why sometimes people don't like it as much, and people, the average viewer might not notice this, but the comics have mentioned this before. I've listened to other podcasts about comics talking about this, but there's a lot of understandably, they're a corporation, right? So there's a lot of controls and filters and compliance and not trying to piss off people type stuff they have to go through. So I think if a one sentence summary, I think it's going well, but I also am very grateful that I have social media because mainstream, there are so many things in my head, ideas in my head that will never get made if all I had was the industry comedy, for lack of a better term, right? The kind of big mainstream / industry / proper TV channel / whatever style of comedy there is.
Well, I mean, I think I hear you and I get it, but then it's also it depends on the context that you're working in, because obviously your own social media, you can do whatever you want. The only filter is your brain, really. But then when it comes to a channel, and it's understandable because they do get complaints. I used to work for Sky doing voiceover for Sky.
Mm-hmm.
We call them continuity. So, the voice that talks to you in between the programs that you're watching. So I did that, and we would be very pernickety about the jokes because I did it for the Comedy Channel, so I would do one-liners. And it was just they would be very pernickety about certain words or certain stuff, and then I would hear the complaints that they would get on the things that they would get, and it would be ridiculous things. But so I totally understand that if you're a channel that wants to appeal to a broader audience, that's kind of what you have to deal with. But then, and so there is a point to the compliance department, but there's also this thing of I think working with a channel or a mainstream thing, there is compromise to be made, but then there's also this thing of it's kind of problem solving. And sometimes it can enhance a joke. Sometimes it can be it makes you think the extra mile and think how your idea that you originally came up with, that maybe if continuity or if compliance then for the channel is saying that. And compliance, by the way, is it's the people who kind of go through the material to make sure that it's the least possible offensive, kind of. But I think it's kind of problem solving, because if you have an idea and then compliance comes back and they're this idea is problematic because of these things. And you're oh, okay, well, then what is the actual point that I want to make, or what is the actual funny here? Can I then do that in a way that won't come off as offensive? Kind of.
Yeah.
And I find it quite interesting and fun to do.
Well, you're
problem
also
solving.
biased because you don't really do socials, right?
Well,
you work in the
how am I
industry.
biased?
Well, you only worked in the industry, which
But
is
then you can
fine.
say that you're biased. That
I'm doing
because
both
you only
now.
do
I'm doing both
you
now.
only do socials.
I'm doing both now. I'm
Well, I
developing stuff
kinda-
with other channels too, you know, not just
Yeah,
this
yeah,
sketch
yeah.
show. But
Yeah.
I'm saying if because I'm doing both, I see the difference. Sure, sometimes it enhances the joke. I think, but the ratio of joke enhancing to joke killing, I think 80-20. 20% of the time, yeah, sure, the joke, you go extra mile, you find a better joke. But 80% of the time, the idea gets diluted down, and you know, but it is what it is. You work within the structure. You know,
I don't think I'm biased, Nigel. I just think I understand how it works, and I appreciate the context that we're working in.
Well,
and then if I have a different context, if I were to do my own stuff on my social media, I say whatever I want. Sure, I don't do YouTube videos,
Yeah.
but on my social media, on Instagram and stuff, I do whatever I want.
Let's put it this way: like an Uncle Roger piece of content would not fly on any channel.
Well, it
Like
depends
the very
on...
first BBC food egg fried rice one. And I'm not complaining. I'm saying I understand why they have compliance department. Complaints are a real thing, and corporations have reputations they have to protect. I'm just saying this is the reality of it. You know,
Yeah.
I've pitched like an Uncle Roger type.
Same here. I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I think we're gonna have to disagree on
I
this.
think I have experience. I think I understand the context that I'm working within.
But you never done really do like content on socials though. You put. I
But
mean,
that doesn't mean that I don't understand socials. That doesn't mean that I don't understand how working with a channel works.
Fair.
It doesn't.
I do think you're gonna. Well, part of my mind is like you're gonna say, yeah, it's challenging, it's fun, it's interesting. Well, because you are maybe more used to it, you work in this medium more, you know, and maybe I'm still trying to get over it, to learning how to deal with these constraints and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
coming from
sure.
social media where it's complete freedom to shit on anybody, as long as I make it funny, as long as it's offensive, I get complaints too, I get comments, but nobody cares. Coming from that perspective, complete freedom to maybe it's not complete unfreedom. It's like maybe like 30% of things, 20% of things I can't say. Yeah, there's an adjustment period of it. Yeah, but I also wouldn't say it most of the time improves the jokes. No, I would say for a minority of cases, 1 in 5 times it improves the joke. Sure. But 4 out of the 5 times, I'm like, nah, I think it's deviated too much. I don't want to even do the joke anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then you cut it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't really be precious about things.
And then I will do those jokes in my Uncle Roger videos or whatever social media format I choose to go to. Yeah. But I guess
As
you
you
also,
can tell, compliance has been a big thing.
yeah, like they let me read that email.
You're gonna read the email?
Yeah. So reincarnation sketch, right? Original sketch. Okay. Guy dies, goes to heaven, shoots himself, comes as a, you know, I'm going through the premise of the sketch, you know. It's like my stand-up, right? You come as
Tell people about your joke.
my joke in the stand-up is like I used to believe in reincarnation, which I realized is a dumb thing to believe in, because if I still believe in reincarnation now, I'll just keep killing myself until I hit straight white male, right? Or white middle class male, whatever I say at that night. So the sketch idea was like, what if you just came back and then you're like, fuck this again? No, black, no, woman, no. You know, that's kind of the sketch. But compliance essentially said, I'm not gonna read out the email out loud, but like, one, we had a character in there who plays Buddha, who just like, you know, we made him a bit like like the Big Lebowski, you know, but it's a Buddha, so like, representation of Buddha might be seen as offensive, okay? And then it's also simplifying race/identity struggles, dismissing adoption, and rejecting various disabilities. Can use the lines about Buddhism being better than Christianity, and not the line about touching kids. Okay, touching kids, sure, whatever. Yeah, yeah, that's it. I don't want to read out the whole email. I don't think I can. But that's the gist of it. But the thing that rubs me the wrong way, and I'm surprised it doesn't rub you the wrong way, it doesn't make you angry, might be seen as offensive. That phrase is the killer for all comedy.
I don't think it is.
Why? Your
Because
jokes might be seen as offensive when you talk about your vagina.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So
sure.
why aren't you more angry at, well, not compliance, but like the phrase might be seen as offensive. To me, it's just it kills everything. I hate that phrase. I think as a comedian, we should put that phrase out of our heads, because sometimes I write stuff and I doubt myself and I be, oh, this might be offensive, but I'm like, no, let's push through. Let's find a way to talk about it. Let's not fall at the first hurdle, because it might be seen as offensive. Most things might be seen as offensive. 90% of our sets, your set, my set, might be seen as offensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine if it wasn't compliance telling you this, and imagine it's like, somebody who saw your show, Evelyn, talk about your vagina might be seen as offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you say to that?
So I think might be seen as offensive. I don't think I don't see that as a thing to get angry about, because I feel like that's being too precious about what you're saying. And also,
it's not a precious thing though, right? You just did your set. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Evelyn, I think those jokes might be considered offensive.
Mm-hmm.
How is it a precious thing? Like, no matter how you just did your set, you can't go back and change your set. No.
Okay, so if we take that example, I'd probably ask that person, I'd probably apologize and be like,
you
sorry.
Apologize
when I do
to someone who doesn't like your jokes. Why?
Oh my God.
A musician? You think Coldplay apologizes to people who don't like their music?
I'd probably say, I'd probably apologize, because I'd say I didn't mean to offend you. And then I would ask them what it was that they found offensive about my set. And then maybe try to have a discussion about it. That's how I would approach it in real life. But the thing is, like, with the might be seen as offensive thing, because the thing is, like, then what is your comedy? Mm-hmm. Is why are we so precious about trying to maintain something that people like? What is your comedy then? If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, that is actually a bit offensive, and if they explain to me why, like, they're ridiculous things. They're like my whales jokes, for example, where I did I had a one-liner, just a throwaway, and I changed the country every time. But I had, for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, they do like a roundup of jokes in The Guardian every year. And so I had like one of my jokes in there for that Fringe Festival of the year. And the joke that they chose was, my vagina is like Wales. People only visit ironically. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people found that offensive. A lot of Welsh people found that offensive. And I understand why. I didn't think about it at the time when I submitted the joke. And the thing is, I change the country wherever I am. So if I'm in Sweden, I say Finland. If I'm in America, I said Canada. If I'm in, like, I've said Scotland. I've said, I changed the country. Yeah. But then for The Guardian, I said Wales. And I didn't think about it at the time, because for me, I'm like, oh, it's just a throwaway joke. But then people found it offensive and they got in touch with me.
Okay.
And I understood why, because of the historical context. Like, Welsh people have been oppressed. And because I myself grew up as a Chinese person in Sweden, I understand how it is to feel that way. And so for making somebody, and I understand, like, every time, basically a Welsh person hearing my joke, or not every Welsh person, but the people who complained to me, who heard my joke, felt the same way I felt every time I hear somebody say ching chong, or, have like make like a bad joke about Asians, having small eyes, or Asians, doing these certain, stereotypes, basically. So I understood why that was offensive.
Yeah.
And then now I don't really do that joke anymore, because I'm like, oh, okay, well,
Bit of a
That's
shit
not
joke
like-
anyway, though. You know, you just say yourself as a throwaway. You know,
It's a throwaway joke. Yes,
so
yes.
I'm not saying I'm not saying don't understand why they're pissed. I'm saying, yeah, I understand why you're pissed. But if the joke is good enough, you know, if I'm happy with it, I make the decisions. If it pisses off people, but in my head it is justified because a joke.
How
the
is it
structure,
justified?
I don't know,
How
originality.
is it justified?
How many laughs you get, originality, like how developed it is, how, you know, interesting, original, funny. That there's a balance there, but that balancing act is down to the talent, down to the act, down to the comedian.
I mean, sure, yeah, I can.
Like my
I can
vagina,
see...
like that's empirically, it's a throwaway joke, not a great joke. It's one line. My vagina is
exactly. So it's
I
like
see,
it depends on the.
For
Yeah,
you made the balancing act. You're like, okay, it's not the most original joke, and it pisses people off. Let's drop it.
Then okay, so for example,
Okay.
compliance. You did a wife beating joke. Compliance didn't like that.
Oh,
Is
that's
that
fine.
something
We
you're
can
gonna
throw- we can-
fight for then?
No,
Because we did
No.
and then Chinaman as well, saying Chinaman. Was that something? Because it was something that you wanted to fight for. And the reincarnation sketch, like all of the things in that, yes, it was offensive. And then we found a different way of doing it. And I think it's the same
less
sketch,
good.
but in a good
No,
way.
I think it's
I
less
think
good.
it's better, honestly. But
I've
you
done
see,
this
the
bit,
thing is
I've
like,
done this
so
bit.
what are the jokes that you're fighting for? You know,
I don't really
like,
want
what
to
is
fight
it that
for any
you're fighting
jokes.
for
I
to
don't really want to
say?
fight for any joke.
You
Why?
wanna-
Why put the effort into fighting knowing that I'll be shot down anyway? Why? And I can just do my own thing.
No,
Do
but
you
that's
see
what
myself
yeah.
fighting for jokes? No, because I'm like, I don't really care. You say no, okay, we'll come up with something different, whatever.
But you're being angry about it. You're being angry at it. You're seeing
Yeah.
it as if you're being censored.
Well, I wouldn't say censored. You know, I can say, you know, when it comes to say censorship, okay, I don't know, it's a very loaded term, right? At an office setting, there are certain things you can't say. Is that censorship? No, I think it's just like part of being a professional environment. I view it the same way. You have this big corporation wants to produce your sketches for you. Yeah, sure, of course there are certain things you can't say. Yeah. So yeah, I am angry, but you know, it's just part of the world. It's just how the world works, man. You just have to accept it. Right? And then that anger fuels me more in terms of my stand-up. I can't say this. Well, I'll try to say it in my stand-up, and I'll find a way to make it funny. If I can make a whole room of people laugh with something offensive, even better. Sure, I have a lot of food jokes. I have a lot of jokes that are like, you know, toast the line that might be considered offensive. But if I can make a whole room of people laugh at those jokes, great. And you won't get there in a sketch setting because obviously you can't tell the compliance like this will get like a huge laugh compared to this because there's no empirical evidence.
But also, when you say offensive, see, do you mean talking about a subject and a subject that can be considered offensive in a thoughtful and funny way, or do you mean just saying a punchline that is offensive? Because there's a difference there. Like, and what compliance, I see it as when they react, it's because we've done the former. Like they're like, oh, okay, the punchline is offensive. We haven't discussed the subject, an offensive subject, in a thoughtful way. And that's the difference between like somebody like Louis C.K. and like an open micer. Like, you know, like it's
you
like
still have to get the laugh.
yeah,
yeah.
you have to get the laugh, but you can also, but there's a
And
difference
don't be
between
hacked.
discussing.
Okay, what are you trying to say exactly? Like, what's the difference there? In stand up, if I say something offensive and it doesn't get a laugh, I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. Either drop that joke or rework it. If it's something offensive, right? Or people recoil, it's based on the reaction. I'm saying because compliance doesn't have a live crowd in front of them, they only see the potential to offend people.
I don't, no, because I think you can see how you get laughs. We know the different types of laughs, right? I even do it. Like, I know that when I say dirty stuff, I get a reaction. I know the type of laugh that I'm getting. So if you say something offensive, then the laugh you're getting is a reaction. It's a reactionary laugh, like a surprising laugh. But there's a difference between discussing a subject, like an offensive subject. Like, for instance, Louis C.K. has he has a rape joke.
Yeah.
And now in hindsight, maybe not great, but he has
I'm on his side. So if you're still great. Louis, you keep jacking off in front of people.
But he has a rape joke, and people like that joke goes over because he's kind of discussing the subject of rape in a thoughtful and funny way.
That's what I'm saying.
As opposed to like rape being the punchline. And I think that when compliance reacts, it means that we haven't been clear enough that we're discussing the subject. They just see it as the like we have made it the punchline.
Even if it's thoughtful, that Louis C.K. bit, if you put it down on paper with no crowd, you send it to compliance, they will still say no. They are reacting off of keywords.
Well, I mean, the notes that we've gotten on reincarnation, it's not the second round of notes now that you weren't there for, but they were a bit more nuanced. I don't think obviously I understand keywords and stuff, but they had an issue with, one bit is, basically what the reincarnation sketch is now is that Nigel goes to Buddhist heaven. I'm an admin person there. Nigel wants to get into nirvana. I tell him he has to go back and learn the meaning of life. So he goes back and he tries different types of lives. And every time he comes back, he has just tried a different type of life. And he comes back with like the signature kind of looks of the different lives. So the first one is you go back as a the son of a rich Asian Bitcoin billionaire. So he comes back with like Balenciaga shoes and like blonde streaked hair, looking like a K-pop artist. And then one of the last one is that he goes back as a white Buddhist. And so we've made it so that he's basically a new agey kind of white guy with dreadlocks, and he comes back as that. And so a joke that I made was that because he has dreadlocks, everybody assumes that he sells weed. And a note that we got back, and then after that, he says that, yes, I do sell weed. And I said, but you didn't get caught, right? That's some sweet white privilege working for you right there. So that the meaning was like, oh, he didn't get caught because of white privilege. And the note we got back for that was they were fine with the white privilege point, but they didn't like the fact that we insinuated that he sold weed because of the dreadlocks, and also because he's a Buddhist. Do we then imply that Buddhists smoke weed? Like that whole kind of thing. And it's like, it is ridiculously detailed and of course annoying at times, but that's the job of compliance, to think that extra step. But then, so the note we got back, it was like, okay, we get it. Fair point. Even though it's white people, and I don't care if I upset white people, but I was like, okay, so what we do then is that in order to make the joke work, because otherwise an alternative would have been to take away your dreadlocks, which isn't funny because that's kind of the joke, that you have dreadlocks as a white guy. And we all know the type of person that we're making fun of and stuff. So what we instead did was that we took away I asked, you still said everybody assumes that I sell drugs. I ask you, do you? And you say no. And then I say, pesky stereotypes. So instead we point it out, which hopefully will make we'll see what compliance comes back with. But like, so that's a note that I feel is worth addressing, because it's like, you see the steps that they've gone. Like, it is that extra kind of step. And it is also that thing of contextually, because yeah, of course, if you do something on YouTube and you get hate comments and stuff, you can just ignore it, of course. But because it's a TV channel and it's Viacom and it's all of this like traditional blah, 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 they can't ignore it, because they depend on advertising money and sponsorships and all of that.
That's fine. That note, I think, I don't know. Depends if we had all the time in the world and all the resources, I would say, okay, let's put both to the test. Let's go on stage and do that as a, crafted a stand-up routine. And then version A, we have the white guy dreadlocks one. Version B is like, pesky stereotypes. Let's see which one gets a bigger laugh. And then the bigger laugh one goes in to the sketch.
But don't you think that they're doing this because of their accumulated data?
No.
Like they have a history of complaints. They've been active for like
they are
decades.
Exactly. They're acting based on complaints. We are acting based on the biggest laugh. Do you see there's a difference there? Sometimes they dovetail together, and fortunately, the one that gets less complaints also gets the bigger laugh. Perfect. But I'm saying 4 out of 5 times, they don't.
It's so... See, I've never really understood the biggest... Like, why are we so...
You're a comedian, right? The biggest
I am a
laugh,
comedian.
Yeah.
I am a comedian.
You want to get the biggest laugh out of a joke possible, of a premise. You want to get the biggest laugh.
But I don't. Yeah, but not
good.
blindly. Not blindly the biggest laugh. I'm not evangelical.
Obviously, not blindly. I mean, the audience will inform you. I mean,
the audience will inform you. Yes. But I mean, like, it's not just like I'm like, okay, that got the biggest laugh. Okay, that's done. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, what do I want to say with this? And if I can say it with the biggest laugh, of course. But it's like, it's just this thing of like, that's usually the argument that is, isn't it? When people talk about, they're like, oh, we can't say anything anymore. Or, oh, like people think it's offensive and stuff. But it's like, oh, well, it's getting the biggest laugh. It's like, yeah, but like, to me, that doesn't really ring for anything. Yeah, it gets a big laugh, but then it's also like, what is it implying? What is it saying? What is that? Is it if that thing? Because I mean, a Chinese impression got the biggest laugh when they did it in the 70s.
Yeah,
you know. So it's like, so
don't play to crowds in the 70s. Do you think it was a Chinese impression will still get a big laugh now if a white person does it? No, the audience is smart too. You know, a rape joke probably won't get a laugh now, right? Like, the audience changed with the times. I do a Chinese impression now. No, it won't get a laugh. Seriously, the audience are smart. The audience tells you. Of course, you know, don't just play to a certain type of audience. That's why you got to play a very London metropolitan liberal crowd. Yes, you got to play that. And then you got to play like maybe some rougher places, more working class type places. And then the audience informs you. And then you realize, okay, some jokes work better here. Maybe the Chinese impression joke will work, say, on a cruise ship full of 80-year-olds. Maybe. But then you have to like, then that's the time you make this creative decision. Yeah.
But also...
Do you want to be a cruise ship comic? Or do you want to be like, you know, more modern, thoughtful, engaging, original?
So do you feel like they are saying that things... They're saying that things are offensive, but actually they're saying that things that aren't offensive are offensive. Is that what you're saying that compliance is saying? Is that how you feel that compliance is saying?
I know the things that I know that can be seen as offensive. I know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as a comic, you can see the trade-off. You're like, sure, it's offensive, but as a stand-up, I've done it so well, we figure out a way to make it good and funny.
But then contextually, but it changes depending on context.
Yeah. For a stand-up, you mean stand-up context to a sketch context? Or do you mean like stand-up or to a corporation context?
Stand-up to sketch, yes. And
That's
then
fair.
also like a stand-up on stage live in the room, then as opposed to a sketch that's going to live on, you know, perpetually in the ether. It's going to age, it's going to blah, blah, blah. But it is that thing of, because you're saying there, the trade-off, you're like, okay, this can be considered offensive, but the trade-off is that I get the biggest laugh here. However...
the trade-off is, it's the biggest laugh, sure, but also, you know, as an artist, you feel like, okay, it's offensive, but it's an original perspective, you know, plus the biggest laugh is a lot of factors. All I'm saying is, when compliance sees it, the trade-off doesn't happen in their head. When compliance sees it, they're thinking about complaints.
No, I think, but that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off. I think that's their vision. That's their perspective of the trade-off. They're like, okay, that's the trade-off. Sure, it'll get the biggest laugh, but it'll also get the most complaints. So I think they do see the trade-off. Or the biggest laugh.
Do they?
If they say that.
Do they?
Yeah, but their trade-off is complaints. Whereas your trade-off is laughs.
No.
So
no. Complaints is part of my equation too. if people come up to me after a show and say they're pissed off, or people walk out, you know, I don't. I mean, I say all this shit. My jokes are mostly about food, so you know. But every now and then. But we both know comics, you know, like Finn Taylor. Every show he does, there'll be walkouts, right?
Really?
Yeah. Every show he does, walkouts. He's amazing comic. I find it very, very original takes on things, and he still does them. That's the trade-off. But if you take say Finn Taylor routine and you know put it in a channel that's not very amenable and very compliance heavy, they don't care how big, how original, how insightful his routines are. They'll be like, oh no, I might be offensive, man. Sorry.
The thing is, I think you can get the same point across. Like, I think that the point can.
Well, you're saying so Finn Taylor could do this. There's a better Finn Taylor could do a better version of his jokes where the crowd nobody walks out. Is that what you're saying?
He doesn't need to. No, he doesn't need to do a better version of his jokes. He's a very good comic. But I mean, if he were to do it as sketch, and it's like, okay, I can't say it in this way. I think you can still find a way to say the core thing, like the point, but you dress it up in a different dressing. That's what we have done. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But it's a different sketch. Let's not say it's better. Let's just say it's different. Let's just say it's compliant.
It's compliant.
It's compliant. Is it better? Don't know. Is it worse?
I think the point comes across. The same point comes across, and it works in a sketch form. I think it almost works. I think it's funnier. I think it's smarter, actually, if I'm honest, because instead of basically the original pitch was that you were going to be reborn, and you were going to be you were going to basically kill yourself in front of Buddha and get reborn and come back as the different people, and the different people you came back as was going to be those people, and you were gonna basically try to do it until you hit rich white guy, because the thing was like rich white guy is the best life. But then I think it's kind of more clever that you come back, but you're wearing all of the things, but you still look like you.
Why is it more clever?
Why? Because it's not as on the nose.
That
it's
to
not
me
as
is that's a budget thing. That's not a compliance thing now. That's a budget thing. We couldn't get every single type of people.
Okay, sure.
That was a budget thing.
It's a budget thing.
Wait, so you think it's better to come back? I think for the sketch, it does work better, but that's a budget thing. You know?
I think compliance
the change we did for the compliance stuff was we couldn't go black and then woman. We couldn't make fun of that big group of people. But we can make fun of like, you know, a specificity, like rich Asian person who doesn't have his dad around. That was the compliant note. The not seeing the person, that's a budget thing.
Okay, I see.
And I see what they're coming from. It's still funny. I still like this current sketch. I think, you know, you can't really compare how funny sketches are until you see the reaction, right? So we don't know. But I think the point is slightly different. Right now, it's very Asian centric.
It's all life is shit.
Yeah, a lot of life is shit, and when you come back, it's like more, you know, most of the roles are Asian people coming. When we come back as something, it's mostly Asian woman, Asian billionaire, Bitcoin billionaire. I forget the rest of the roles now. Okay, we have a white Buddhist, I guess.
We have a white Buddhist. Well, we kind of made it like. It just happened to be, we didn't really state it explicitly except for the first one, but then it just kind of happened to be Asian so that we could make the white point, so that we could make the race point. Yeah. Kind of. But
like don't you see that there is also like ignoring the elephant in the room coming out as a black person? You know, the point is slightly different.
Well, when I wrote the football player, I imagined that was a black guy.
Okay.
But then you added the line of Chinaman. But we've cut that.
That didn't come across when I came back. A football player could be any race could be a football player, right?
Yeah, any race can be a football player. Any race can be a housewife. Well, because racist hooligans or racism, because the players who experience racism the most are black players in the UK.
Okay.
Like it's
There are
with
there are
the
Asian
like
footballers too. in the
banana
UK.
peels and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Well, two.
Well, that's why I wrote Chinaman
But,
because I thought you were writing like a Asian footballer.
No,
If it were
I didn't include. I based it on. So I based it on the football, like the thing of
Okay.
that racism towards
See,
footballers is often
I didn't
black
get it.
guys
I
and
would have
stuff,
put
yeah.
banana peel in there. I guess when I
Yeah.
I was like, oh, does she mean black or could it be any race? So I think when we did the
Yeah.
read through, I said banana peel. I think I got that then. But then when I read the actual sketch itself, I'm like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
Evelyn didn't mean black. Maybe Evelyn meant still Asian. So, but I think banana
It
peel
is
works.
tricky, yeah.
Banana peel works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not think if we actually see a black footballer on screen, same words, I think that could work too,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could work too, definitely.
But that's more of a budget thing than a compliance thing.
Yeah. But the sketch that it is now, in the way that it is now, I think we could definitely put in like different people, like a black football player or a white housewife or
compliance is mainly concerned about like blanket statements. So we can't say, oh, coming as a black person, oh, life sucks.
Yeah.
But if you say coming as a black hipster who loves musicals, we can make fun of those.
Well, it was just the way that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, specificity. But it was also the way that the original sketch that we pitched it, because I can totally see how it comes off as that it could come off as making fun of the people rather than making a commentary about race and class, and gender. So I could totally, like, the original way we pitched it, it was a bit more sloppy, or it was a bit more underdeveloped. We hadn't like really refined it, which is like, and that's why, like, I think when you work with that, you're like, oh, because to me it's not like, oh, they're trying to censor us, or it's like, oh, okay,
I didn't say that.
I'm being
Don't put words in
unclear
my
here.
mouth. Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm not
Okay.
putting words in your mouth. But I just like generally how compliance can be like interpreted. It's like, but like when we get feedback, often when I get feedback, I just treat it as, oh, I've been unclear somehow. I need to be clearer. Or they see something that I haven't seen. And I'm like, okay, then I can appreciate that. But so
yeah, I think you have a way more charitable view of compliance than I do then. To me, I feel like I get it. You're trying to do your job as a channel. But also because you're not comedians, I will respect your decision, but I don't trust it.
Well, there's a difference between opinion, definitely, and then feedback. Because sometimes
Are they not one of the same? Isn't the feedback all opinions of someone? What? So
to a certain
do you think your
extent,
feedback is fact? If it's
No,
not
not
opinion, then it must be
fact.
fact then, right?
No, not fact.
Okay.
But there's a difference of like, I don't think this is funny versus I think maybe this is the direction that would be better for you to take to make this clearer. And so it's like, because some of the feedback that we got while we were having the meetings, I felt were more opinion based, as in what the people found funny, rather than them understanding our point and trying to help us clarify it.
I see what you mean. Fair.
Yeah, so when it comes to feedback, you kind of have to, that's a distinguishing thing that's interesting as well. If a person isn't collaborative in that way, it's just exhausting, really, I think.
Yeah.
But
that's behind us now. We figured out a solution.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think we're in a good place. The sketches read good.
Yeah.
I think compliance is compliance. It needs to exist for every channel. I get it. Annoys me. But yeah, sure. If I want to get something done with the channel, it's a game I have to play. You want to get promoted. If you want to like be hired at a company, you have to not say shit that will get you sent to HR. That's how I view it. do I trust all the things they say? Sure, if it's like notes on like, can you make this premise clearer? Then that's fine. But if it's like notes, I think this could be considered offensive, then it annoys me. But I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah. Which makes me really appreciate, just doing my own thing on YouTube, really. Like a channel would not let me. Okay, imagine this, man. I'm just gonna play a middle-aged Asian guy, and then I'm gonna have a laptop in front of me, and then I'm gonna bitch about Jamie Oliver. How about that? That's an idea. Podcast. Let's say our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not feel that there's a extra level of creative freedom that comes with it? Compared to any company that has a compliance department.
I mean, creative free. I mean, I know that I can say whatever I want on the podcast. So I mean, obviously, if you're gonna do something yourself without anything, then you can do whatever you want because you're the only filter that your brain goes through. But I think I really like collaboration, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with a channel. But like, I really thrive when I get to do a back and forth with another person because I feel like they always have a perspective that I haven't, that I've not got. And then that kind of fuels me. And then, it's like when we riff or when we banter, it's like you play off of each other. And it's tough to find people that you play well with.
What about your stand-up? How did you write your stand-up?
Oh, well, yeah, stand-up. If you see my that's me at my most. I say whatever I want to say when I do stand-up, and I don't care. That's when I feel the most freest creatively, I think, is when I do stand-up.
And then when you write stuff for your stand-up, do you have someone to bounce ideas off of? Or is it mostly a solo effort?
It's mostly a solo effort. In that case, it's the audience. Yeah, it's the audience. Because as you say, the audience is the feedback there. Yeah. So your laugh, because stand-up is like, that's how you measure if it's good or not, or if it works or not, or if your point comes across or not. It's the audience feedback. So and maybe that's why we're good at reading people, because we have to learn how to read an audience. So you bounce ideas off of because you can't create stand-up in a vacuum. That's like a one-woman show if you do.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I've seen some of that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I would probably say, like, on the podcast, I feel like you're very free on the podcast, and I feel like yes. I can be free, but I also feel like I rein you in a bit. I feel like your compliance, actually. I feel like I'm your compliance on the podcast. But when it comes to stand-up, I feel that's why I always say that I think that I'm the most myself when I do stand-up. But I think I'm the most unabashed.
You would still apologize to people if you did a Wales joke and somebody said, that I'm from Wales, I think it's quite offensive. You still apologize to them.
Yeah. Because it doesn't.
I've apologized for my jokes enough twice. And if I could go back and redo it, I wouldn't do it again.
What was the
Remember the
complaint?
Chinese takeaway stuff? That bitch about how Chinese takeaway food here is bad?
Oh, on the podcast.
On the podcast, yeah.
Oh.
I think after that, I had time to reflect, and I'm like, yes, I'll try to understand the perspective, but I won't apologize for what I do ever again. But I will understand the perspective, and I'll try to improve those jokes in the future if I do those jokes again. But I won't apologize.
Why won't you apologize if something you've said has hurt somebody's feelings? Why wouldn't you apologize?
Because the intention wasn't to hurt their feelings.
Yeah, but you lose your intention as soon as it goes out in the world.
So it's how they interpret it, right? It's cut through their own knowledge and lens. So because also, like, as a comic, where does it end? I make a lot of pedo jokes. Disability jokes. So do I have to apologize each time a listener writes a YouTube comment?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to apologize to YouTube comments.
So
but
when
if
when
people,
when should I apologize and when shouldn't I?
I think
For you, the line is
yeah,
community,
it's
right?
your-
If you own, that's a rule you draw for yourself, which is fine. You say if I piss off the community, like the British, Asian, Chinese, British born Chinese community, then I apologize. But white people have said you've pissed them off before. You don't apologize. So clearly, you either have to draw a line somewhere in your head, or you have to. For me, I want a blanket go no more. And I think both approaches are fine.
I think if I apologize, it's because the person has expressed it to me in a way where I'm like, okay, I understand how I hurt you. When white people get in touch with me about some of the things I say, I see people who have just understood that they're not top of the crop anymore. And that's why I don't apologize.
That's a big assumption. That is a huge assumption from
no,
a
it's
DM.
Not, because
from
I
a
read
DM
it.
someone sends you.
Well, yeah, because they're usually very long, Nigel. They're
okay.
usually like, I can show you one that I got recently.
Read it out. Read it out. Read it out.
I shouldn't read it out.
Read it out. Who cares?
What did I get? But like, for instance, all the Welsh people, they're white. They explained racism to me in the DMs and stuff. And the thing is, I apologized to them because I was like, oh, okay, I now did with this joke what I've had done to me with Asian jokes. I understand.
Okay.
Valid.
So you only apologize if you understand.
No, not if, I mean, of course, to some level, I mean, I understand the people who I feel are being unreasonable as well. But it's kind of like, it's kind of looking at, okay, I hurt your feelings, but then also looking at kind of why maybe. Well, let me read this.
Okay.
And maybe this isn't the best example, but I posted a video of, I posted like a story of Drew Barrymore and Martha Stewart. Do you know
scissors or something?
Yeah, they were eating ramen and they were using scissors, and I thought it was really funny and very cute.
Yeah, it's a funny thing.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and it's like, and also I kind of found it funny how upset some people became of it, how upset it made some people. But I was like, this is just adorable. This is just kind of funny. So I posted it like on the stories, and I said, it's funny how they've probably figured out pasta, but can't seem to figure out ramen. And then I did a little heart. And then and then after that, I posted a video of a Chinese man who did the same. Because I remember, I was like, oh, I know I've seen this somewhere. And it was a Chinese guy who did the same. And obviously, somebody on Drew Barrymore's staff saw this, the Chinese guy, and then was like, oh, Drew, you could do this.
Okay.
So, and then I got a message where it was from, okay, so I'll read it. Okay, I have a few things to say about people being mad about this. 1, they know they're being silly. They're just enjoying being silly. It's just for fun. 2, spaghetti is not the same as noodle. It's more rigid and way shorter. 3, it's easy for white people to figure out ramen if they use a fork and spoon, like for spaghetti, or pre-cut the noodles. Not so easy with chopsticks. 4, slurping might be acceptable in Asia, but not in America. And besides, they're white. Look, I'm white and I live in China. I loathe the slurping, but I put up with it because it's not my country, and it's the price to pay for enjoying my noodles. But sometimes I take a fork, and sometimes I do weird shit with my chopsticks, and the other customers laugh at me. But it's all okay. Who cares at the end of the day? So, from this message, what I hear is, hey, Asians, you have bad manners. It's not okay in America. And also, I'm white and I live in China, but I hate the Chinese.
Well,
that's what I hear from this message.
Well, you're hearing it you're making a very uncharitable interpretation. That's not what I heard at all. That's not what I heard at all.
What did you hear?
So fill me in on the context first. I didn't actually see. I know the Drew Barry. I saw a Next Shark thing, but what did they do? They ate noodles with scissors. They cut it up. What did
they ate noodles. They took a fork and they were eating noodles, but they were like, oh, it's like, to avoid slurping and to avoid getting your clothes messy, just use scissors. And then they cut. They cut it
put
first.
It
in, and then they cut The noodles, yeah.
Okay.
And so I mean, I'm like, that's just kind of funny and adorable.
Yeah, it's
in a
cute.
patronizing way for me.
I think
but
the text you got, I think the guy has no sense of humor. First of all,
It's a woman.
Whatever. The person has no sense of humor. But I don't think they were saying Asians is rude. It is true. It's not acceptable in the U.S. Factually, it is true. Slurping, not a polite thing to do in
but
the U.S.
in between the lines, it's like it's not acceptable in America. So like be like the country you're in. Leave your traditions at home.
Why are you adding this undertone to it? Why?
Because that's what it. Because that's
you're coming
what
at it.
says.
This is your baggage now. Sorry, I have to say this is your baggage now.
It's not my.
It is.
It's
it
not
is
my
your
baggage.
baggage.
It's my life experience. It's how I've experienced white people. Growing up in white land.
If I'm white and I tell you, Evelyn, slurping. Slurping. Things we do. I went to Asia. Everyone was slurping. That's not very polite in the U.S. So are you gonna come at me with your life experience and be like, oh, are you saying you're better than me?
Not saying you're better than me, but you're saying, hey, behave.
No, what I tell my Asian friends, slurping, not very polite in the U.S. I think you are being very uncharitable because they're white.
No,
sorry,
not
I think you're gonna check yourself
no.
a little bit, Evelyn.
No,
sorry.
I don't think so. No,
I think so. And what's the second thing? I live in China. What's your interpretation? I live in China and I put up with it. Mm-hmm.
Wait. Slurping might be and besides they're white. Look, I'm white and I live in China. I loathe the slurping, but I put up with it because it's not my country and it's the price to pay for enjoying my noodles. Basically, that line just tells me, hey, just behave in the country you are. Just
again,
go back to the country you are.
That's not what I got.
That's yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
what did you get?
Listen, you could loathe people slurping. Now I kind of don't like it when people chew with their mouths open now. But when I'm in Malaysia, it's a common thing to do.
But it's the fact that they say but it's not. I put up with it because it's not my country. Like the fact that they've included country in there. It's like.
I mean, factually, it is. It isn't their country. So yeah, and yeah, when you go to certain countries, you have to put up with some of the customs people do.
Yeah,
even though you don't agree with it.
The thing is, the video isn't even about. It isn't even about slurping.
She's coming with it with a ton of her own baggage as well.
Yeah, which is
with
racism.
Zero sense of humor. But I think your interpretation also comes with is cut with so much of your own. You're imbuing all her words with a lot of, and we've talked about this before, but something I think maybe
I'm reading between the lines. I mean, but how do you interpret this? Because this is so like loaded with. It's like But you have to understand so loaded.
In a text. Sometimes, you have to give people a benefit of a doubt, especially you can't read their tone, their body language over text. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more charitable.
How? So this person telling me that I'm wrong for in what way do I need to be charitable here? I really don't.
The most you can take away from this. Oh, this person's she's fun at parties. That's all I would think in my head.
Of course.
I wouldn't be like, why are you saying? Are you saying like it's rude? You're saying what Asian people do is rude and inferior? I wouldn't go. Maybe you go a step further from me. I just stop at this person's fun at parties. Ugh, and then I just scroll past.
Yep.
I think you
definitely.
You imbue it with a little bit more. You read between the lines more, and maybe that's not mentally healthy for you. I don't think
that it's not mentally healthy. I think it's the reality of living. I think it's the reality of growing up in a place where I was a minority, and this is how you kind of see it. You see the matrix, basically. You see all of the like little intricate things. It's the same as being a woman versus a man. You see all the little intricate things that, you as a man probably don't think about. I know that I questioned myself, and then you do that. You kind of gaslight yourself, but I questioned myself. I was like, am I overreacting here? Or am I not? I don't know.
I think the same way like in the pod we recorded today, the same way you have to unlearn certain habits. Maybe these are the things. These are sometimes perspectives and
I don't know.
things you have to unlearn. And sometimes
There's
you're
a
wrong.
difference.
Sometimes you're wrong. When I read the email the producer and the director sent, and I read your interpretation of it, I was like, ugh. She's not gonna listen to me anyway, so I let me just play along. You know?
Why didn't you? No, I was going to listen to you. If at any point you should have said, you're overreacting here, it should have been then.
I feel very patronizing when I say that to you. And I know you have your own opinions on things, and, who am I to say anything? And I also realize we can't really change people's behavior. So even if I do tell you you're overreacting,
Didn't I ask you if I was overreacting?
Yeah, but do you really want the truthful
Yes,
answer at the time?
Nigel,
well, the
yes.
answer is yes. I think you're about to get your period and you're going a bit crazy.
Okay, you shouldn't say it like that. Oh my God, come on,
See?
Nigel.
You don't want a truthful answer then.
You can say I think you're overreacting, but you don't say I think you're about to go on your period and that's why you're over.
Well,
like,
we talked about it on the podcast afterwards.
Yeah, but I just came off my period, by the way, so I'm not due until like next month.
No.
But
when you sent the email out, and then a few days later we recorded the podcast, right? And then you said, we had that like what do you call it, cunty 5 joke.
Yeah.
And then a few days later I pieced it together. Oh, maybe she was overreacting because she's going through this. That's me trying to understand you, man.
Oh my God.
My God.
But you should have told me then that I was overreacting.
Why
because I was
should I?
asking you. I was
Then
asking
it'll lead
you.
to just lead to an awkward conversation, and then we have enough of those between us. I'm like, nah.
No, it was like because I asked you if I was. I was like, look at this, blah blah blah. Am I?
To me,
and I asked several other people.
To me, I feel like they just finished a sketch. They were excited to share it with you the same way when I've just finished. I was like, I want to show this to someone. To me, that's what I read. Man, again, maybe I'm terrible at reading between the lines, and I'm too trusting, too naive, and I don't read between the lines essentially. Maybe I'm completely off base on this. Who knows? What? Maybe you should ask Emerald one day. But you were saying that you were saying they were very patronizing for running it through you first instead of sending it to the whole
to
team.
Everybody. Yeah, because they didn't do it with any other sketch that were written by the dudes. And sure, maybe that one was more, maybe that one, but it felt like they were doing it because they didn't want to make me mad, basically, for changing the things. It felt like how I read it was like, because he mentioned that he was like, if you're okay with it. And it's like,
yeah.
I don't care. It's a sketch. I'm not precious about things.
Well,
I'm not precious about my writing.
If let me think back to what did they change exactly?
They just cut it. They just trimmed it for time and stuff. But it was there was something in it, that felt patronizing. But obviously, I also think that I could have overreacted then. Yeah, for that one.
I felt,
but.
You might be right. They might be like thinking, oh, she's a woman. They might have influence, and because they didn't do that with any other sketch. You're right.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could also be, the first sketch they worked on. Emerald's excited. Emerald's, oh, what do you think of this?
No, I think they changed. That was like the last sketch they worked on because I sent it late.
Oh, okay. Maybe you're right. I don't
know.
No,
but the thing is, instead of saying, what was it you were saying?
You
instead
were
of saying
overreacting, PMSing.
No, but you said something else. You said,
what did I say?
You said, yeah, they didn't do it with us, and that set me off even more. You should have just said, okay, Evelyn, you may be overreacting here. Just calm down. Because I asked you.
Well,
oh, that's so funny.
Also, how do you know they worked on other sketches first? Because your email was the last, you send it later, right? So sometimes people work reverse chronological order. Your email was like the top of their email client. Maybe, right? I think without this information, you can't really know if it's, sure, the optics of it doesn't look good because, so happens the only sketch you sent back was the only one written by a woman. It's not great, but I don't know. I think the difference is I don't really see any ill intent, and to my detriment, by the way. I
It's because you haven't had to. You haven't had to.
In Asia, you can't trust people in Asia, man. Kidnappers are everywhere. Safety. We're brought up to be less trusting of people. People are ripping you off.
For that, but not like, I'm thinking. Obviously, in the West, it's different, because as an Asian man, you will face things. But have you ever felt like, oh, this is because I'm this, or this is because I'm this?
Not in a race sense, but with every interpersonal relationship, every work relationship, say like at school, before I came to the US or UK, secondary school, sometimes we'd be discussing stuff. Oh, is it because I'm, in the first class instead of like the third class? So sometimes people get, other things. Yes. Is it because I'm X? Is always a factor. Maybe, unless maybe you're like a very, very default person, a very default, like a straight white male in an all white school, and then you don't have any position of leadership, and you're like average income, of all your parents are average income. Yeah, but I don't think that exists. I think for everybody, the question, oh, are you doing this because I'm X, will always exist. Maybe not a race angle, but is it because I'm part of this society? Is it because I'm dating this person that you're saying this? You don't like the person? Yeah, there's always going to be that question in people's heads. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I think I'm quite reasonable, which is why with that email, I did question myself. And after I sent it, I was like, I regretted it immediately.
It's okay.
But it's fine. Yeah. But I think also it could have been brought on because of all the stresses with this project, because this project has been quite stressful. But I think honestly, I'm a very reasonable person. I'm a very I don't cry wolf, that I feel like I don't. And so that's why.
I'm sure Sophie Hagen thinks she's a reasonable person too, though.
I think
everybody thinks it. The woman who drinks and sleeps on the porch.
Oh, come on.
I don't think she thinks I'm being very unreasonable right now.
I think I'm a reasonable person, Nigel.
I think 90% of the time you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a good percentage.
Yeah, it's a good percentage. But I'm just saying.
It's a really good percentage.
There is nobody in this world who thinks they're being unreasonable.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, of course we think we're being unreasonable at times, but
I have done some shit before where I'm like, I'm being reasonable, right? And then I look back, I'm like, I was a bit of a dick there,
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Okay. Now let's talk about the positives of this sketch show. I think it's been very negative, but I have to say.
So what are they?
Well, to know how a collaborative comedy writing effort looks like has been very eye-opening. Because reincarnation sketch, you have to rework it. And I was stressing out all day. I'm like, oh, what's the idea? And you said, you had an idea how it could work. And then we jump into the brainstorm call, writers and an editor, and then we made it work. And then it's actually really funny. Same thing with the high sketch, Asians 11. Yeah, so Asians 11 is like, what if Ocean's 11 were Asian? I was stressing out all day. Okay, Asians 11, it sounds so daunting. I know the concept is funny, but how do I put it down on paper? And then we jumped on the call. And it just happened. We got all the beats, all the structure. So it really opened my eyes to how I've never done much collaborative things before. Everything.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. So it really showed like, oh, shit can come together really nicely. And there's a different way of working, which I quite enjoyed. And I know I've been, I couldn't attend all the meetings because my schedule is like insane as well. But the meetings I did attend, I quite enjoyed. It's a different way of writing for me. It's a different way of doing work. So it's a nice departure from the Uncle Roger videos. Sure, I have an editor helping out, I have a writer helping out, but it's still a very solo effort almost, So that was another positive. And then, seeing the other parts of the process, the casting, even seeing people's differences of opinions. It is a bit forceful. It is a bit like, I want to get my way, but I look at it, I'm like, okay, sure, I'm not gonna let you have your way, but I know it's not personal either, And I've always enjoyed a little bit of. I remember in university when
you like fighting.
Yeah,
I don't.
Someone threw a pencil at me because they disagreed on something. We're just discussing an engineering project. I'm like, yes, boy, let's battle it out. And then we just hugged it out afterwards, and then the project still went fine. But I think that shows that people care. To me, sure, not the best way to do it, but I think it shows that people care. And
I think
a bit of confrontation spices things up a bit,
I think it's a waste of energy and time. And there's a simpler way of working it out and getting to the place that we want to be at quicker. And I don't know if maybe it's a male thing. Maybe it's a male thing.
Maybe
you guys have to battle it out.
We love just.
It's exhausting. It's so exhausting.
Put some headphones in,
Well, I can't tune you guys out because you're so loud. Because it's all you're male. But I get it, and it's like because the thing is, I think everybody in the project has great ideas and great perspectives, and it's good. But it's also that thing of you. It doesn't matter how good your ideas are if you're collaborating. It matters if you know how to work together. And that's the most important part, really. Like, really. Because if you have a great idea, but you can't present it in a pleasing way, or if you're exhausting, then I don't want to work with you.
When I was in my day job days, we had to take a class, on communication styles. And I just feel it has a different communication style to you. And they tell you how to deal with people with different communication styles. So to me, it's just, there are 4 types. I forget now what are the 4, but I know there's one aggressive one and one's like a very people type. So they're diametrically opposed. But then the trick is to how to figure out how to, work with those people because they're not wrong and there are pros and cons to each way. Yeah. So to me, that was just like, oh, okay, my corporate experience has prepared me for this.
Yeah, but I think I mean, you were quite combative with him.
I can be, yeah, because that's how you deal with it.
I don't know.
But I'm not going to be combative with you because that's not the right communication style when I deal with you.
Yeah, but I think you could probably, I mean, it got heated between you guys in that meeting that we had.
But for people in that communication style, getting heated is part of the process. But for people in this kind of people, like you, the more bluish, they use colors to represent it. I think you're more green. I think yellow is for more people. I forget the color now, but he's red. And I'm red too. But as a red, you have a handbook of how to tone yourself down to deal with blues and greens and yellows. So you're like a green, a people person. So yes, heated, not a good solution for you. You guys just retract into a shell and it exhausts you. But for the Reds,
it exhausts me. I just let it play out, and then I'm like, okay, let's just do the work.
But for the Reds, a heated thing to them, it just feels like a debate, a discussion. Seriously, the perspective of how people view things. And I'm not saying I'm an expert at this. I'm just saying I'm aware these exist, and I hope to God this is the right way to deal with it because I didn't really pay attention. I'm like, red, green, blue, whatever.
It was a lot of like arm twisting and stuff, but it was like, well, the thing is, I totally get it, but in my opinion, I'm like, I just have to sit there, let it play out, and then be like, okay, can we then, the blues and greens, get on with it and get the job? Like, because
but what if you have a red on your team? It will slow you down a bit. But then you
it'll
have
slow me down.
But it's a different perspective, And to me,
I put them on my red list. The thing you think
is heated, to me, it just feels business as usual. Afterwards, I still got dinner with him.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah,
it's different. It's a different approach to things.
It is different. And to me, it's like, it's counterproductive to me.
That's very self-centered.
To my style.
You have to attempt to understand different people's style.
I understand, and I choose not to engage.
Okay, I think that's the right way to do it. But But the thing is counterproductive. Unfortunately, every organization will have some red, some green, some blue, some yellows.
Yeah.
So we just have to learn how to deal with it, it's nice, and I've had to learn a bit. I'm a very strong red, and you are like a very verdant green, and I have to.
Am I a green?
I don't know. I know I'm a red. I don't know what the people style is because I couldn't be bothered to listen. It's a very red behavior.
Typical red.
Very red. I think blue is like a brainy type.
Uh-huh.
But it's somewhat interesting, in a corporate setting. You can learn how to deal with people. So when I'm talking to a blue, I present more facts and more data. If I'm talking to a red, one sentence summary to start. I think we should do X before I go into detail. If I do the blue, then I think, okay, because of A, because of B, because of C, and the data shows that D, therefore I should do X. If it's red, I'm like, we should do X because this. If it's a yellow, small talk. Hey guys, how's it going? How's the weekend? Good? You bought a house? Great, amazing. Where did you buy it? How much you pay? You get a price? For green, I don't know. I forget the actual, they call it like how to deal with things, communication, interpersonal communication. But I view it as manipulating people.
What?
There's a little bit of that, isn't it? I know
it's social competence. Manipulating people.
What is the line between social competence and manipulating people? You know what I mean?
God, that's what I'm looking at green now. So apparently, so green is assertive. Blue, red
color.
is aggressive. Blue is passive, and yellow is passive aggressive. And so, I don't sound assertive, but I feel like I am. Appropriately honest. I'm quite honest. Direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, empathetic of emotions of all involved. So I definitely am empathetic of all emotions of all involved.
I think we're looking at different. This is the one I saw in my. Let me WhatsApp it to you. This is the one I saw.
Okay.
In the corporate at Monzo. I had to go through this training. So I'm a red, competitive, demanding,
totally
determined, strong-willed, purposeful. On a bad day, aggressive, controlling, driving, or bearing. Yeah, it makes sense, right? And you are, I think,
earth green.
You are a green, Caring. Yeah.
Caring, encouraging, sharing, patient, relaxed. On a bad day.
Yeah.
Docile, planned, plotting, reliant, stubborn. I feel like I'm pretty good on a bad day still.
Well, we all feel that, don't we?
No, according to the words here.
Okay. Stubborn.
Planned, reliant.
Reliant as you rely on people, not reliable.
I see. Yeah,
blue is the brainy one. They think.
Right? Yeah.
See?
My cousin's blue.
And then yellow is sociable. We should post this in the Patreon too.
Yeah.
Yellow is sociable, dynamic,
demonstrative, enthusiastic, persuasive. Yeah, that's not me.
And then,
so I'm a green.
Yeah. At Monzo, when I'm dealing with yellow people, that is exhausting to me. To a red person, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Small talk. Oh, this person. Before you get into the work, that is exhausting to me. But I don't say it because that's just different communication styles. I
understand. Yeah.
So when I deal with you, I forget. I don't have the handbook now, but there's they have best practices.
What have you written a handbook on how to deal with me?
Not with you. That was my corporate days. They give you a handbook. I was like, if you are red, here's how you deal with blues. Here's how you deal with greens. Here's how you deal with yellow.
That's funny.
So each group has their own how to deal with people. So if as a green to deal with a red, I think I forget now, but I think being exhausted, I think that's part of the normal process.
I think so too.
They say when you deal with people who are on diagonals is the most exhausting.
We're diagonal.
So
that's
a blue brainy person dealing with a sociable person, that's the worst. The fucking nerds who want to talk about numbers and equations, and the yellow's like party. Let's talk about our drinks later.
That's why we exhaust each other.
Yeah. And that's normal. I've been telling you it's normal.
Yeah. And that's why we have this dynamic. See? That's funny. That's funny.
It's actually, when I took this course, I thought it was a load of shit. But now I'm like, okay, there's some truth to it. It's like, it's useful especially a professional setting. Because in a friendship setting, sure, you have more time to understand and talk things through. But in a professional setting, if you piss people off, that's gonna haunt you for a while, So I think it's quite useful. The red, blue, green, yellow. So listeners, let us know what are you? We'll
Yeah,
put
let
this
us know
link.
what you are.
Yeah. I think we've gone on long
That's
enough.
funny.
You have a
we've
lot
gone.
to trim. You have a lot to
This
trim.
is longer than our regular episode we
but
recorded
it's
today.
less funny though. But I think it's useful to talk through this. It was useful for us too to get to know
Yeah,
the lay of the land. I think
hopefully interesting for you guys to listen to.
I remember in the team, it was a whole data team doing this, right? And I was the only red on there. Everybody else was blue. Because it's
Yeah,
data,
of
right?
course.
But I'm like, duh, duh, duh.
Did you have to do tests?
Yeah, they have like a questionnaire and then you answer
That's
from
so
like
funny.
strongly disagree to strongly agree, you know, that kind of thing. They
Yeah.
ask you like maybe like 25 questions. And
Yeah.
I had a super high red score. Everybody's a mixture of everything. Except for me, I'm like 90% red and they call it
Of course
autistic
you are.
red. Autistic red.
Did they really call it autistic red?
No, I called it
No.
that. And then I
Yeah.
got sent to HR again. But
I mean, did you really?
they threatened a few times to send me to HR.
Oh my God, Nigel. This is so funny because you are autistic. Like I honestly have had moments where I sit and I'm like, is Nigel autistic?
I probably am. I don't read between
Is
the
he
lines.
not? Is
No.
he?
I probably am, but I think it's useful. Autistic people achieve great things, you know.
Yeah. Autistic people achieve great.
It's true. It's true. All right, we've gone long enough. Thank you for your support, people, and we will have
Thank
another
you.
bonus episode coming your way this month. Bye.
You will. Bye.